Hi everyone, you're welcome back to my channel. In this video, I will be solving Cambridge IGCSE Mathematics Paper 4 Extended of February-March 2025. Question number 1. Write down the factor of 28, that is a prime number. Okay, first we have to find the pairs of numbers that multiply to give 28. So 28 equal to 1 times 28, 2 times 14, and then 4 times 7. So these are the pair of numbers that multiply to give 28. They're also the factors of 28. So I'm going to list them as the factors of 28. Now, the factors of 28 are 1, 2, 4, 7, 14, and 28. So from this list of factors, we're expected to identify the prime numbers. And of course, the prime numbers are numbers with only two factors, 1 and itself. So we can easily identify 2 as a prime number, as well as 7. 7 is also a prime number. So we've got only two prime numbers on this list. So the final answer to question 1 is 2 and 7. Question 2, simplify 4y squared plus 3y minus y squared plus 2y. Okay, we can start by rearranging the expression, grouping the like terms, and here we've got 4y squared and y squared as like terms, and also 3y plus 2y are also like terms. So let's start with 4y squared. 4y squared minus y squared plus 3y plus 2y. Now 4y squared minus y squared is equal to 3y squared. Now plus 3y plus 2y will be plus 5y. So the final answer to question 2 is 3y squared plus 5y. Now question 3, shade 2 more small squares to make a pattern with 2 lines of symmetry. Now to shade 2 more small squares from this pattern, we have to, of course, we have to shade this one, this square. We can start by shading the square. And the second square will be the square here at the middle. So we also have to shade this one. Now, after shading the squares, you have to draw the line of symmetry. Now, drawing the first line of symmetry, I'm going to begin from the top left to the bottom right. So let's begin from the top left to the bottom right. And the second line of symmetry will be from the top right to the bottom left. So let's see it this way. That's it for question 3. The next question, question 4. Calculate 20.24 minus the cube root of 30 over 6.5. Give your answer correct to 1 decimal place. So let's rewrite this as 20.24 minus the cube root of 30 using your calculator gives us 3.107. 3.107. Now we're dividing this by 6.5 over 6.5. So that's 6.5. Now 20.24 minus 3.107 gives us 17.133. Gives us 17.133. So I'm going to write 0.133 over 6.5. Now, using your calculator to divide 17.133 by 6.5, that gives us 2.64. Now, the instruction says, give your answer correct to one decimal place. So we have to convert 2.64 to one decimal place. By converting 2.64 to one decimal place, the final answer will be 2.6. So the next question, 5. We're given a pattern that's formed by 3 congruent rectangles. Each rectangle is a rotation of 90 degrees around one vertex of the rectangle next to it. The point A has a coordinate of 2 and 5, and the point B has a coordinate of 4 and 1.5. Work out the coordinate of point C and point D. Now, point A has a coordinate of 2 and 5. So the X and Y coordinate, this is X, the Y coordinate of 2 and 5. So which means on the X axis, we're going to have 2. On the Y axis, we have 5. Now, for point B, with the X and Y coordinate of 4 and 1.5, means on the X axis, we have 4, and on the Y axis, we have 1.5. Now, to find the coordinates of point C, before we find the coordinate of point C, we were told that the rectangles are congruent, which means the sides, the lengths are equal and the width are equal. Now, the distance from 2 to 4 means the width of this rectangle is 2. And the distance from 1.5 to 5 means the length of the rectangle is 3.5. So since the rectangles are congruent, so here we've got 2. This is going to be 3.5. 3.5. 2. 2. And 3.5. Now, let's find the coordinates of point C and point D, starting with point C. Now, to find the coordinate of point C, the X and Y coordinates of point C, let's find it. We start by finding the X value. Now, beginning from 2, 2 plus 2 gives us 4. 4 plus 3.5 is going to give us what? 7.5. So the X value will be 7.5. And let's find the Y value. Here it's also 2. Now the Y value will be this line, the line that touches this line. So we need to find the Y value. And to find the Y value, if the length of the rectangle is 3.5, so we have to subtract 2 from 3.5. The length of the width of the rectangle here in this case is 2. So 3.5 minus 2 will give us 1.5, which means 1.5 plus 1.5 will be equal to 3. So the y value will be 3. So the x and y value for point C is 7.5 and 3. Now let's find the x and y value for point D. X and y value for point D is going to be from the x coordinate, from the x, to find the x value, we start counting from, this is 2. Now 2 plus 2 gives us 4. 4 plus 3.5, this is 2 plus 2, 4. 4 plus 3.5 gives us 7.5. 7.5 plus 2 will be 9.5. So the x value is 9.5. Now let's find the y value. The y value will be this, the point above 5. So let's see. So let's try to identify the exact value for this. Now, the exact value for the y value here would be 5 plus 1.5. Okay? If the length is 3.5, if the whole of the length is 3.5, so I'm going to subtract 2 from 3.5, and what's left will be 1.5. This length will be 1.5. 1.5. So I've got the distance from 5 to this point is 1.5. So you just add 5 plus 1.5 to give 6.5. So the y coordinate will be 6.5. So we're now going to write the answers. The x and y coordinate for C be given as 7.5 and 3. So 7.5. And the x and y coordinate for D is 9.5 and 6.5. Now the next question, 6. Each week, Nisha is paid $12 per hour for the first 40 hours that she works. She's paid 30% more per hour for any extra hours that she works. 1 week, Nisha works for 5.5 hours. Calculate how much she's paid that week. Okay, the total amount of money paid to Nisha after 45.5 hours will be, first, we have to identify the key point, the keywords here. Now, Nisha is paid $12 per hour for the first 40 hours. Now, she worked for a total of 45.5 hours, which means we have the first 40 hours plus additional 5.5 hours. So for the first 40 hours, Nisha was paid $12. And Nisha was paid $12 for the first 40 hours. Now, she is paid 30% more per hour for any extra hours that she worked. So for the extra hours, she's paid 30% more. So we're going to calculate 30% of $12. And 30% of $12 is going to be 30 over 100 times $12. Of course, if you multiply this and divide, you're going to get 3.6. So we will add 3.6 to 12. So 12 plus 3.6. That gives us 15.6. So for the extra hours, she's going to be paid $15.6 per hour for the extra hours. So now the total amount paid to Nisha is going to be, let's see, total. Now we have to multiply 12 by 40 and add it to 15.6 multiplied by the extra hours, which is 5.5 hours. So 12 times 40 is equal to 480 plus 15.6 times 5.5 will be 85.8. So if you add 480 to 85.8, you're going to be getting in dollars 565.8. So the final answer to this is $565.8. Now the next question, 7. The table shows the age and mass of each of 10 babies, age in weeks, and the mass in kilogram. Now, the question here says, complete the scatter diagram. The first 6 points have been plotted for you. So let's complete by plotting the last 4. We're going to complete the graph by plotting the remaining points, which is the last 4 points. So let's see. The shaded one has been plotted for you. So we're going to now age in weeks on the x-axis and mass in kilogram on the y-axis. So I've got 9 to 4.6. So let's locate 9 on the x-axis. This is 9, the x-axis. And then we have 4.6 on the y-axis. So let's see this. Now, if this is 4, so for every unit on the y-axis, it's going to be like 0.1. So we've got 4.1, 4.2, 0.3, 0.4, 0.5, 0.6, 0.7, 0.8, 0.9, and 5. So 9 to 4.6 is going to be exactly here. This is 4. This is 4.5. Then we have got 4.6. This is exactly 4.6. 9 to 4.6. Okay. So we're moving on to the next point that says 7 to 4.5. So on the x-axis, we have to locate 7 on the x-axis and then 4.5 on the y-axis. So let's say this is 7. 4.5 is going to be exactly here. This is 4.5. So we're going to locate the point here as 4.7 to 4.5. Okay. Now the next point says 1 to 2.5. So the x-axis got 1, 2.5 somewhere here. So here is 2.5. And then finally, 11 to 5.3. So let's locate 11 on the x-axis and then identify the exact point where it intersects 5.3 on the y-axis. So 11 to 5.3. Now this is 5, exactly 5, 0.1, 0.2, and 0.3. So we have a point here. And this is exactly 11 and 5.3. So after identifying the point, let's go back to the question. The question says, Question B, yeah, complete the scatter diagram. The first 6 points have been plotted for you. So, well, we've completed the scatter diagram. Now, the next question says, question B, what type of correlation is shown in the scatter diagram? Now, from the points and from the graph, it's obvious that as the mass is increasing, the age also increases. So the relationship between the mass and the age is as one quantity increases, the other increases. Now, this type of correlation is regarded as a positive correlation. So question B will be, the answer to question B will be positive. Now, question C, on the scatter diagram, draw a line of the best fit. Okay, so to draw a line of the best fit, we have to ensure that there is a balance in the number of points on both the left-hand side and the right-hand side. So let's draw the line of the best fit. Beginning from here. Passing through this point. So we should have something like this. Now, there's supposed to be a balance in the points. On the right-hand side, I've got 1, 2, 3 points. And on the left-hand side, we have 1, 2, and 3. So this is known as the line of the best fit, ensuring that there is a balance in the points. The line passes through only 3 points. So we're left with 3 points on the right side and 3 points on the left side. So this is known as the line of the best fit. Now let's move on to the next question. Use your line of the best fit to find an estimate of the mass of a 14-week-old baby. Now the age is 14-week-old, and we have to go to the x-axis and identify 14 weeks. This is 14 weeks. So I'm going to connect 14 weeks on the x-axis to the y-axis. I mean, to the line of best fit, this is 14. So now let's say if we are trying to I just have to trace this up until it gets to this point. Then you will have to trace this to the y-axis, from the point of intersection of 14, intersect the line, and then this point of intersection, you have to trace it to the y-axis. So let's trace for 14, the x-axis. Okay, now 14 weeks old, trace it to the line. So where it intersects the line, you can now trace it to the y-axis and take your reading from the y-axis. Here it's going to be 6.1, 0.2, 0.3, 0.4. So the answer to question D is 6.4. So use the line of best fit to find an estimate of the mass of a 14-week-old baby. The answer to this is 6.4. 6.4 kilograms. Now, the next question here says, the scale drawing shows the position of both A and both B. The scale is 1 centimeter, represents 0.5 kilometer. Question A, find the actual distance between both A and both B. Okay, the actual distance between A and B, let's connect the points, point A to point B. This is point A to point B. Now find the actual distance. In this case, we have to measure, use your ruler to measure the distance between distance of B from A. So we can actually measure this distance. And let's say we have an estimate of, for instance, after measuring this, the distance is 4 centimeters. Now, how can we convert this to kilometer? We're given a scale that says 1 centimeter represents 0.5 kilometer. Now, if 1 centimeter represents 0.5 kilometer, then 4 centimeter would be 4 times 0.5. Now, 4 times 0.5 will give 2 kilometers. So the answer to question A is just 2 kilometers. Now, the next question says, lighthouse L lies to the east of both A and B. L is 4.4 kilometers from both A and 3.3 kilometers from both B. Using a ruler and compasses only, construct and label the position of L. Okay. Now, we're told that the lighthouse L lies to the east of both A and B. L is 4.4 kilometers from A. Now, the east of A and B is in the right direction. That's in this direction, the east. So L lies 4.4 kilometers from A, and I mean the lighthouse also is 3.3 kilometers from both B. So, but to be able to construct this, to find the location of the lighthouse, we have to first convert 4.4 kilometers to centimeter, and also 3.3 kilometers to centimeter. From the given scale, 1 centimeter is 0.5 kilometers. So converting 4.4 kilometers, all you have to do, 4.4 kilometers to centimeter would be 4.4 divided by 0.5. 4.4 over 0.5. And that gives us 8.8 centimeters. So we have to also convert 33 kilometers. Well, also have to convert 3.3 kilometers. Now by dividing 3.3 by 0.5. Now 3.3 divided by 0.5 gives us 6.6 centimeters. 6.6 centimeters. Now using a pair of compass, you have to measure a pair of compass and a ruler. You have to measure 8.8 centimeters with the compass. You place the tip of the compass on A and create an arc somewhere around this direction. And after that, after creating the arc, Then measure for both B, you will have to also measure 6.6 centimeter using a pair of ruler and a compass. So you have to place your compass on the ruler and measure out 6.6 centimeter. Place the tip of your compass on B and create an arc that intersects the first arc. This is somewhere here. Then all you have to do is to connect point A to the point of intersection. Now we have to connect point A to the point of intersection here, and also point B to the point of intersection. So don't forget to label the lighthouse as L. L. So the lighthouse is labeled as L. That's this point of intersection here is the lighthouse L. Now let's move on to question 9. Write 0.00709 in standard form. Okay. This number is already in ordinary form. So to convert this to standard form, first I have to move from the decimal point and count how many places towards the right. Got 1, 2, and 3. So I counted 3 places to the right hand side. So the answer to this will be 7.09 times 10 to the power of -3. So question B, work out 4 times 10 to the power of 4 in bracket to the power of 2. Give your answer in standard form. Okay. Now, in this case, we have to distribute the square. So which can be done by, we can rewrite this as 4 square times 10 to the power of 4 in bracket square. Now, 4 square means 4 times 4, which is 16, times, now, according to the law of indices, we have to multiply the powers. 4 times 2, 8, and this gives us 10 to the power of 8. But 16 is not in standard form. So we have to convert 16 to standard form because according to the instruction given here, you're expected to write your answer in standard form. So I'm still going to convert 16 to standard form. And of course, 16 in standard form means 1.6 times 10 to the power of 1, then times 10 to the power of 8. Now, according to laws of indices, the bases are the same, so you add the powers. So the final answer to this is 1.6 times 10 to the power of 9. So I'm going to write the answer here as 1.6 times 10 to the power of 9. So the next question, 10. Draw the image of first triangle A after reflection in the line y equal to 1. So we have to draw a mirror line or line of reflection when y is equal to 1. So this is going to be the line of reflection, the mirror line. So let's draw the mirror line when y equal to 1. So this is going to be the mirror line. Now, to reflect this image, the object A, given a mirror line of y equal to 1, here y is equal to 1, I will count the number of units, the distance from the mirror line to each of these vertex, okay? And then reflect the objects. So I'm counting from the mirror line to the first vertex, which is just one unit. So just count 1 unit and identify the point. Now for the second vertex, we've got 1, 2. So I'm going to count 1, 2, and this is the second point. Now for the last vertex, counting from the mirror line, 1, 2, 3, 4, 4 units. So we're going to count 4 units from the mirror line. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4. And this is the last point. So I will be joining the points, from the first vertex, second vertex, then to the third one. It has to come like this. So with this, we have reflected the object. Now let's move on to the next question that says, triangle A after a translation by the vector -6 and 1. The column vector is given as -6 and 1. So which means on the x-axis, we're going to move by, on the x-axis, we've got -6. And then on the y-axis, we're moving by just 1 unit. So we're moving by -6 on the x-axis and +1 on the y-axis. So which means that we move 6 units up to the left, 6 units to the left. Then we have 1 unit up. So let's go back to the diagram and then try to, from the object, I'm going to start from one of the vertex here. I'm moving -6 means that we're moving on the x-axis towards the left-hand side by 6 units. So we're counting 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And then we're moving up by 1 unit, 1. And this is our first point. Now from the second vertex, we're moving 6 units to the left-hand side, and then 1 unit up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. So this is the second point. And the last vertex, the last point here, we're moving 6 units to the left-hand side and 1 unit up. So we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 1. And here's the point. So we're going to connect the points now. Connect the points from to form a triangle. I have this here. Then I will also connect this. Okay, so that's the translated image of the object. So the last question here says that we have to describe fully this single transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle B. Now, the single transformation that maps triangle A onto triangle B, here it's obvious that we're going to be having a rotation here. And when it comes to rotation, the first thing you want to do here in this case is to identify the center of rotation. Okay, how do I identify the center of rotation? First, we have to join the vertex of the object to the image. So let's say we have, I'm going to join this corresponding. First, we have to now connect 2 pairs of corresponding points and then use a compass to find the perpendicular bisector of the line. Where the both lines intersect, the perpendicular bisector intersect will be the center of rotation. Let's say, for instance, I'm joining this to this. Okay. And I'm joining this point to this point. So the first step is we connect two pairs of corresponding points. Now, two pairs of corresponding points. This point corresponds to this. And here we've got the second point corresponding to this. So I will use a compass to bisect this line. Now, to bisect the line simply means you take more, using your compass, you take more than half of the line. You can actually create an arc. And also you try to create an arc in this form. And also do the same for this line. You draw a line, and then you also bisect the second line, and then draw a line. So the point of intersection is likely going to be on this point. So you try this using a compass to bisect both lines to get a center of rotation. And the center of rotation is going to be 3, -1. It's going to be the center of rotation. After finding the perpendicular bisector of the first line and the perpendicular bisector of the second line, now the point of intersection is going to be 3 and -1, which is the center of rotation. So from the center of rotation, you can clearly see that this object has been moved 90 degrees anti-clockwise. So if I join one of the vertex to the center of rotation, so we're moving one of the vertex to the center of rotation here. So now the shape has been moved anti-clockwise by 90 degrees. So the answer to question B that says describe fully the single transformation that maps triangle A onto B, we say that the transformation is 90 degrees anti-clockwise. It's 90-degree anti-clockwise. About the center. The center is 3, -1. So that's it for question B. Now let's move on to the next question. Question 11. 11A, Mid-Hill invests $1,500 at the rate of 4.2% per compound interest. Calculate the value of the investment at the end of 5 years. Now, to calculate the investment at the end of 5 years, we can actually apply the formula, value of investment equal to the principal times 1 plus the rate, all in bracket, to the power of n, which is the number of years. So of course, the principal is $1,500. The rate is 4.2%, and the number of years, 5 years. So now let's go and multiply 1,500 times 1 plus 4.2 over 100 in bracket to the power of 5. Number of years is 5. Now use your calculator to add and multiply this. Also recognizing the power 5. After using the calculator, you should get 1,842.6. So 1,842 $1.6 as the answer to question 11A. Now, question 11B, Hitachi invests some money at the rate of X degree per year compound interest. At the end of 11 years, the value of investment has doubled. Calculate the value of X. Now, still applying the same formula, value of investment equal to the principal, V equal to the principal times 1 plus the rate, which is R over 100, in bracket to the power of N. Now, the principal, and she invests some money at the rate of X degree. Okay. Now, per year compound interest at the end of 11 years, the value of investment has doubled. Now, if the investment is Y, and Hitachi investment is Y, then at the end of 11 years, the value of investment has doubled. So if it has doubled, then it becomes 2Y, because the value of investment has doubled. So all we're going to do now is to substitute this into the formula, value of investment, which is 2Y, equal to the principal. Principal is Y. Value of investment is 2Y. The principal is Y times 1 plus, now, the rate, so the rate is given as what? X degree. So we can just write X over 100 to the power of 11. Okay. Now, we can actually start by canceling out the Y on both sides, the right hand side, left hand side, divide both sides by Y. Okay, divide by Y to cancel out this Y. This Y also is canceled. Then we have 2 equal to 1 plus X over 100 in bracket to the power of 11. Okay. Now, to find the value of X, which is the rate, we have to get rid of 11. And to get rid of 11, it means I have to find the 11th root of both sides, which means we have 11th root 2 equal to, we also have the 11th root of 1 plus X over 100, all in brackets, the power of 11. So which means we've got 2 to the power 1 over 11 2 to the power 1 over 11 equal to, so I'm going to write this as 2 to the power 1 over 11 equal to 1 plus R X over 100. Okay, so of course, 2 to the power, using your calculator, you can find the 11th root of 2, and that gives us 1.065 equal to 1 plus R or X, which is the rate, X over 100. Okay, now to find the value of X, we can actually subtract 1 from both sides. So we have it this way, 1.065 minus 1 equal to X over 100. Okay, so we can cross multiply to find the value of X, cross multiply this. Now, before you cross multiply, first you have to subtract 1 from 1.065, and that gives us 0.065 equal to x over 100. So if you cross multiply, you will get x equal to 0.065 times 100. If you multiply 0.65 by 100, the value of x will be 6.5%. So finally, x is 6.5%. That's the rate per year compound interest is 6.5%. And the next question here says question 12. A cone has sloping edge 12 centimeter and base radius 5 centimeter. Calculate the total surface area of the cone. Now let's start by drawing the cone. So let's say I have a cone like this. Now the slant height of the cone is 12 centimeter. So here the slant height is given as 12 centimeter. And the radius of the base of the cone is given as 5 centimeter. The question says, calculate the total surface area of the cone. The total surface area of the cone is given by the formula. Let's say total surface area. It's given by the formula pi r squared plus pi rl. Now, pi r squared, the radius is 5. So we're going to have pi times 5 squared plus pi times the radius, which is 5, times the slant height, which is 12. So 5 squared, 5 times 5, 25. So we got 25 pi plus, now 12 times 5 is 60. This is going to be 60 pi. So 25 pi plus 60 pi is going to give us 85 pi. Of course, the value of pi has a value of 3.142. So we can simplify by multiplying 85 by 3.142. So this is 85 times 3.142. And then this gives us 266.9. Okay. So approximately we can round up to give 267 centimeters square. So the final answer to question 12 is 267 centimeters square. Now the next question says, the table shows the first 5 terms of sequences A, B, and C. Okay, sequence A, B, and C. The first term, the second term, the third term, the fourth term, the fifth term, and the nth term. Complete the table to show the nth term of each sequence. Now, beginning from sequence A, we can write out the sequence for sequence A. Now, sequence A, 5, 12, 31, and 68. 68, 129. So this is for A. So the sequences, the terms are 5, 12, 31, 68, and 129. So first, we have to find the common difference between the terms from the first term to the second term. And the common difference between the term is going to be 12 minus 5. Here we have the common difference between will be what? 7 plus 5 plus 7 gives us 12. The common difference here will be 19. Also, the common difference is 37. And the common difference was 61. Okay. Now, from the common difference, we observe that they're not the same. So we have to keep finding the common difference. I mean, again, go ahead and find for the second common difference. So between 7 and 19, we've got 7 plus 12. And also between 19 and 37, it's going to be 19 plus 18. And then 37 plus 61, we've got 24. Now, still not common. The difference between the terms are still not common. So we have to continue. And when you get to the third difference, 18 minus 12. So we have to add 6 to 12 to give 18 plus 6. And also to get 24, we have to add 6 to 18 to get 24 plus 6. So this shows that it's a cubic sequence, especially the third one. This is a cubic sequence. So to find the nth term of this sequence, we assume that Tn is equal to n to the power of 3. So if Tn is equal to n to the power of 3, when n is equal to 1, so I have got T1, when n is equal to 1, it means we're going to have 1 to the power of 3, which is equal to 3. But we need 5. I need 5. So what do I do to 3 to make 5? Or rather, sorry, it's going to be 1 to the power of 3 means 1, not 3. So 1 to the power of 3 is 1. So what we do to 1 to make 5? We have to add 4 to 1 to make 5. And so the nth term in this case will be equal to n to the power of 3 plus 4. So the nth term of sequence A will be n to the power of 3 plus 4. Now, for sequence B, we're given a fraction in this case. So all we have to do here is first we begin with the numerator and then before going to the denominator. So I'm going to write out the terms for the numerator. The list of numbers will be 10, 9. This is 10, 9, 8, 7, and 6. Now, the common difference here is just simply subtracting 1, minus 1, minus 1, minus 1, minus 1. So to find the nth term in this case, you multiply minus 1 by n, the position. So we have Tn, which will be -1 times n. That gives us negative n. So when n equal to 1, that is T1, is going to be just -1. Well, I need 10. So I need 10 means we have to add 11 to this to give 10. So the nth term in this case will be, if I want the second term, which is T2, T2 will be -2 plus 11 to get the second term. -2 plus 11 gives us 9. So the n term in this case is going to be 11 minus n for the numerator. Now let's find for the denominator. The denominator, I'm going to write down the sequence or the terms. We have 3, 4, 5, 6, and 7. The common difference here is just adding 1 plus 1 plus 1 plus 1, and then we have plus 1. So if you multiply 1 by n, it's going to be just n. So let's say Tn will be n. So T1 for the first term, to find the first term of this sequence, is just 1. So what do we do to 1 to give 3? I need 3 as the first term. I've got 1, so I'm going to add 2 to this to make 3. So which means the nth term in this case would be Tn equal to n plus 2. Now, let's try for the second term, T2, and see if it will actually give us the value of the second term. The value of the second term, which is 4. So when n equal to 2, this is 2 plus 2, that is equal to 4. So the nth term of the denominator is n plus 2, and the nth term of the numerator is 11 minus n. So here I'm going to write 11 minus n over n plus 2. Now, for the last sequence, sequence C, we have for C, we have the list of the terms here. The terms are 4, 8, 16, 32, and 64. Okay, now this sequence from the first term, which is 4, the second term is 8, 16 as the third term, 32 and 64. You will observe that we can actually say 4 equal to 2 square. 2 times 2 is 4. And we can also, so 8 is what? 2 to the power of 3, which is 2 times 2 times 2, 8. Now 16 can be 2 to the power of 4. 16 can be 2 to the power of 4. And then 64 as what? 2 to the power of 5. Okay, so to find the nth term of this sequence, we can now write Tn as 2 to the power of n. Okay, they all have a common base, so 2 to the power of n. Now let's try for the first term when n equal to 1. N equal to 1 will simply be 2 to the power of 1, and that is 2. Well, I need 4. For the first term is 4, not 2. So how can 2 become 4? It means we have to add 1 to the power by writing Tn equal to 2 to the power of n plus 1. We can try for the first term again and say when n equal to 1, then 2 to the power of 1 plus 1, which is 2 to the power of 2, equal to 4. Now, when n equal to 2, T2 is going to be what? 2 to the power of, because the n term n plus 1, which is 2 plus 1, that is 2 to the power of 3. Of course, 2 to the power of 3 is equal to 8. So the n term of sequence C is going to be 2 to the power of n plus 1. The n term here is just 2 to the power of n plus 1. Now to the next question. Question 14. F of x equal to 5 minus 4x. Find f of negative 3. To find f of negative 3, you have to substitute into the function the value of x as negative 3. So here we're going to write now f of negative 3 equal to 5 minus 4 times negative 3. So this becomes 5 plus 12 plus negative 4 times negative 3 is positive 12. So 5 plus 12 is equal to 17. So the answer to this is 17. Now, question B. Find f of 3 minus 2x. Give your answer in simplest form. We're still going to substitute this into the function. So we have f of 3 minus 2x equal to now 5 minus 4 times 3 minus 2x. So to simplify this, we have to expand the bracket. Now we're going to have 5, negative 4 times 3 gives us negative 12. And negative 4 times negative 2x will be plus 8x. Okay, so 5 minus 12 is going to be equal to negative 7 plus 8x. And so the final answer to question B is negative 7 plus 8x. Question C, find f of x inverse. Now to find f of x inverse, let y be equal to 5 minus 4x. Then, if y is equal to 5 minus 4x, we can now, the next step will be interchange. Let's interchange the variable. Interchange the variable, make y equal to x equal to 5 minus 4y. This becomes 4y. And then at this point, I'm going to make y the subject. Let's make y this y. I'm going to make y the subject. To make y the subject, it means that we have to rearrange the equation in such a way that if you move negative 4y to the left-hand side and x comes to the right-hand side and negative 4y goes to the left-hand side, now it becomes positive and we're left with 4y equal to 5 minus x. Now, of course, making y the subject means we have to divide both sides by 4. So divide both sides by 4, and you can cancel out the 4. And then we have y equal to 5 minus x over 4. So f of x inverse is 5 minus x over 4 as the answer. Now we'll move on to the next question, question number 15. Virat records the height of each of 80 sunflowers. The results are shown in the table. The height in meters with the class interval of 1.2 less than the height or less than or equal to 1.5, 1.5 less than the height, less than or equal to 1.6, and also 1.6 less than the height or less than or equal to 1.7, 1.7 less than the height, less than or equal to 1.9 with a frequency of 12, 20, 34, and 14. Calculate an estimate of the mean height. So to calculate an estimate of the mean height in this case, we have to first and foremost calculate the midpoint from the class interval. Now, to calculate the midpoint of the class interval, we're going to call the midpoint x. Now, the midpoint means we're adding 1.2 plus 1.5 and then divide by 2. This gives us 1.35. Now 1.5 plus 1.6 divided by 2 gives us 1.55. 1.6 plus 1.7 divided by 2, it gives us 1.65. 1.7 plus 1.9 divided by 2 gives us 1.8. Now, after finding the midpoint, we'll have to now find the mean, which is the sum of fx, over the sum of the frequency. Okay, the total frequency. So sum of fx over total frequency. This is fx. Fx means the frequency times the midpoint. And the sum of the frequency will be the total frequency, 12 plus 20 plus 34 plus 14. Now, the sum of fx, here we have the frequency times the midpoint, which is 1.35 times 12 plus 1.55 times 20 plus 1.65 times 34 plus 1.8 times 14. So all this divided by the total frequency, which is 80. The total frequency, which is the sum of the frequency, 12 plus 20 plus 34 plus 14. And that gives us 80. So that's 80. So using your calculator to multiply and add, you're going to have 128.5 divided by 80. That should give us 1.61 meters. So the final answer to this is 1.61 meters. Now question B, draw a histogram to show the information in the table. You're given on the y-axis the frequency density and on the x-axis the height in meters. So we're told to draw a histogram. Now first we have to find the frequency density. Of course, the frequency density of each of these, frequency density, FD, is given by the formula, the frequency over class width. Now, the class width is just simply the difference in the class interval here. So the class width for the first interval will be 1.5 minus 1.2. For the second interval is 1.6 minus 1.5. The third interval is 1.7 minus 1.6. Finally, we have 1.9 minus 1.7. That's the class width. So let's calculate the frequency density for each of these class intervals. Now, for the first class interval, FD will be equal to the frequency 12 over the class width, which is 0.3. That gives us 40. Now, for the second, the frequency density of the second class interval is going to be 20. Frequency over the class width, 20 divided by 0.1. That gives us 200. Now, the next class interval, FD, for the next class interval, FD is going to be equal to FD is going to be equal to 34. over 0.1. That is 340. And the last class interval, frequency density, which is the frequency, 14, over the class weight, which is 0.2, gives us 70. 14 divided by 0.2 gives 70. So with this value, we can now go ahead and draw the histogram, given this the frequency density, the values of the frequency density, and the class interval. Now for the first class interval, which is 1.2 to 1.5, we can start by drawing this, starting from 1.2 with a frequency density of 40. So we have each of these units represents 10, 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So the frequency density of the first class interval is 40. So we have 10, 20, 30, 40. So I'm going to start by here. And then it goes to 1.5. 1.5. Stop this. Then we can trace it down to 1.5. That's it. Now, the next class interval is given by 1.5 to 1.6 with a frequency density of 200. So 1.5 to 1.6 with a frequency density of 200. So we're going to start by, this is 1.5. I'm going to trace this up to 200. So to 1.6. Then we can bring this down. Gets down to 1.6. Now, the next class interval, 1.6 to 1.7, with a frequency density of 340. So 1.6 to 1.7, with a frequency density of 340, we can now trace it to 340. Let's say from this, we're moving. So we're going to move from here, 340. So this is 300, 10, 20, 30, and so we have 340, then to 1.7. This is 340. One 1.7. I think this is not accurate. Let's have to draw this again. Let's give this a try again. So 1.6 to 340. So from here, we're going to trace it to 340. Let's say we have 'So I'm just going to trace. Let's see. Let's raise this again. Try to locate 340. This is exactly 340. Okay. So we can now trace it to 1.7. Then we can come trace it down. Okay. Now the next class interval, 1.7 to 1.9, with a frequency density of 70. So if this is 50, so we've got 50, 60, 70. So first trace it down, 1.9. We're going to trace it straight to 1.7. That's it. So here we have our histogram. So that's it for this question. Question 16, the graph shows the speed of a cyclist during a journey of 30 seconds. Now let's have a look at, here's the diagram, the graph, speed on the y-axis, and time in seconds on the x-axis. Write down the acceleration of the cyclist between 15 seconds and 25 seconds. Now, between 15 and 25 seconds, the speed is constant. Now, between 15 and 25 seconds, here, and 25 seconds, the speed is constant. And constant speed means zero acceleration. So the answer to question 16A is 0 meter per second square. Now the next question B, by drawing a tangent, find an estimate for the acceleration of the cyclist at 7.5 seconds. Now let's go back and locate 7.5 seconds. Now 7.5 seconds, here we have, it's going to be 2 units to represent 1 on the x-axis. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So this is going to be 5, 6. This is 5, 6, 7, 7.5. So this is 7.5. So we're going to locate, try to trace this up. Here 7.5, 5, 6, 7, 7.5. Now the question says, work out by drawing a tangent, find an estimate for the acceleration of the cyclist at 7.5 seconds. We are simply going to find the gradient of the curve at 7.5 seconds. And to find the gradient, we have to draw a tangent at exactly 7.5. So let's have a tangent here at exactly 7.5. Let's say we have our tangent lies on 7.5. Let me draw this again. So let's say we can say this is a tangent drawn. From this tangent, we should be able to calculate the gradient of the graph of the curve. So to find the gradient, first we have to identify 2 points on the tangent. So now let's identify the first point. Now we can select this as one of the points. First point. And also select this one as another point, the second point. Okay, so now let's find the coordinates of the first point. I can label this A, I'll label this B. So the X and Y coordinates of this point will be X is 5, yeah, X is 5. Y is going to be, now on the Y-axis, we have each unit to represent 0.2. So 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.8, 1, 1.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.82. So we will have 6 points, 6.2, and 6.4. So it's going to be exactly 6.4. So the Y coordinate is 6.4 for point A. Now for point B, we can now say, let's find the X and Y coordinate for B. Now the X coordinate for B at this point, say this point, now here we've got 2 units to represent 1. So if this is 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So we're going to have here 10, 11, 12. So this is 12.5, 10, 11, 12, 12.5. The X coordinates is going to be 12.5. And the Y coordinate in this case, let's trace this. The Y coordinate, which is exactly here. Okay. Now, like I said before, each unit on the Y-axis is 0.2, 0.2, 0.4, 0.6, 0.81. So here it's going to be 8.2, 8.4. So on the Y-axis, we're going to have 8.4. So let's label this as X1, Y1, X2, Y2. So the gradient in this case will be equal to Y2 minus Y1. The gradient will be equal to Y2 minus Y1. The gradient is Y2 minus Y1 over X2 minus X1. The value for Y2, 8.4 minus 6.4. So 8.4 minus 6.4. Y2 is 8.4, Y1 6.4. So 8.4 minus 6.4. 6.4 over X2 minus X1. X2 minus X1, 12.5 minus 5. 12.5 minus 5 So 12.5 minus 5. So we're going to try to calculate for the gradient by saying 8.4 minus 6.4, which is equal to 2, over 12.5 minus 5, which is 7.5. So 2 divided by 7.5 is going to give us something within the range of 0.2666, which can be approximately 0.3 to round this to one decimal place. So we have finally is going to be 0.3 meter per second square. So the next question here is, work out the average speed of the cyclist between 15 seconds and 30 seconds. Now let's go back to the graph. Now the average speed between 15 seconds and 30 seconds, let's mark this out. 15 seconds. To 30 seconds. Now, we're simply going to find the average speed, which is distance over time. So to calculate, to find the distance traveled, the distance traveled will be the area of all this region, the trapezium. So the whole of this region will be the distance traveled, which is simply the area of the trapezium. And of course, the area of trapezium is given by the formula 1/2. Let's come here and say average speed the distance traveled over time. Now, the distance d will be the area of the trapezium, which is half times what? The sum of the two parallel sides. So the sum of the two parallel sides will be 15 plus 10 times the height. The height is 8. Okay, now let's go back to the diagram. Now, the height of this trapezium, the y-axis, you can count, you can see 0 to 8 is the height of the trapezium. Okay, and the length of the two parallel sides, but from this point to this point is going to be what? 25 minus 15, and that is 10. And the whole of this side is 30 minus 15, and that is 15. So the length of the two parallel sides, the first side is 10, and the second side is 15, and the height is 8. So applying the formula 1/2 times the sum of the two parallel sides times the height will give us 100 meters. So we're going to have 100 meters as the total distance traveled between 15 seconds and 30 seconds. Now, going back to the formula for calculating the average speed, which is the distance traveled over time. So the distance is 100 over the time. The time from 15 seconds to 30 seconds is 15. So 100 divided by 15 is going to give us 6.67 meter per second as a final answer to question C. Now let's move on to the next, which is question 17. Question 17, the diagram shows 3-point ABC on horizontal ground. The bearing of C from A is 145 degrees. Angle ACB is 38 degrees. AC 65 meters and BC is 95 meters. Find the bearing of B from C. Now find the bearing of B from C. Now we're looking for the bearing of B, the point B, from point C. So you can actually start by drawing the knot. Let's see, we have a knot. Let's see if I have a knot here. Let's raise this first. We have a knot. Now the question says, find the bearing of B from C. Bearing of B from C, simply counting in clockwise direction. This is actually the bearing talking about. Okay. Now, we're also told that the bearing of C from A is 145 degrees. So the bearing of C from A, which is this, is 145 degrees. Okay, so we can apply the properties of parallel lines. Now, consider these lines parallel. Then it means this angle will be alternate to this angle, just like having a parallel line. And we say the angles are alternate angles. So if this angle is alternate to this, it means the whole of this is 145 degrees. And what is left here is 180 degrees. So we're going to now say the bearing will be equal to 180 degrees plus 145 degrees. One 180 plus 145 degrees, and that should give us 325 degrees. So the bearing of B from C is 325 degrees. The next question, show that AB is 59.3 meters, correct to one decimal place. Now let's go back to the diagram. Show that the length AB is 59.3. This is the length. The length AB is 59.3. We need to show that this length is 59.3 meters. So how do you show that this is 59.3 meters? First, we have to look at what is given. Here we've got three sides are given. The three sides are given with a known angle. So in this scenario, you have to apply cosine rule. So we're going to apply cosine rule in this case, where we say AB square equal to 65 square plus 95 square minus 2 times 65 times 95 cos 38. So 65 squared, 65 times 65 gives us 13,250 plus, no, we have to, 65 square plus 95 square is going to give us 13,250. Then we can subtract minus now 2 times 65 times 95 cos 38 will be equal to 9,731.93. So if you subtract this, means AB square will be equal to 3,518.07. So to find AB, we have to find the square root of both sides. We need to find the square root of both sides. Then AB will be equal to 59.3 meters. So that's it for question B. Now, question C. Angle BAC is an obtuse angle. Work out the bearing of B from A. So we need to work out the bearing of B from A, which is simply this bearing. The bearing of B from A will be the whole of this angle gives us the bearing of B from A. Now, if what 145 is known, so we can actually find the missing angle here and add the value of this angle theta, for instance. We add the value of this angle to 145 to give the bearing of B from A. To do that, we can apply the sine rule. The opposite side is known. The angle is unknown. And we've got AB is known, and the opposite angle is known as well. So we can apply sine rule to find angle theta. So let's apply sine rule. So sine rule states that sine A over A. So let's have sine A over 95 equal to sine 38 over 59.3. So if you cross multiply this to make sine A the subject, it becomes sine A equal to 95 times sine 38 over 59.3. So sine A is going to be equal to 0.99863 using your calculator to find, to multiply 95 by sine 38 and then divide by 59.3. So we get sine A equal to 0.9863. Now, to find the actual value of A, we have to find the sine inverse of A will be equal to the sine inverse of 0.9863. And that gives us the value of A as 80.5 degree. But 80.5 degree is an acute angle, and we're told that angle BAC is obtuse. An obtuse angle is an angle greater than 90 degrees, but less than 180 degrees. So we have to find a way to, we actually have to find the exact angle of BAC because it's an obtuse angle, we're told from the instruction given here. It's an obtuse angle. So to find the exact angle of A, we have to subtract 80.5 from 180 degrees minus 80.5, because 80.5 is an acute angle. That's why we're subtracting from 180 to find the exact angle of BAC, and that gives us 99.5 degrees. So the exact angle of BAC is 99.5 degrees, BAC. Now, work out the bearing of B from A. Now, I haven't found the angle theta to be 99.5 degrees. Now, if angle theta is now equal to 99.5 5 degrees. Now the bearing of B from A is going to be the sum of 99.5 degrees and 145 degrees. We're adding angle theta. The whole of angle theta is added to 145 degrees to give the bearing of B from A. So we can now say the bearing of B from A is 145. So the bearing will be 145 plus 99.5, and that gives us a final answer of 244.5 degrees as a final answer to that. So now let's move on to the next question here. Factorize question 18a. Factorize 18a squared minus 98. Now the common factor between 18a squared and 98 gives us 2. So we can actually factorize by writing a common factor, which is 2, and introducing a bracket like this. Now 2 goes into 19a, 2 goes into 18a squared, gives us 9a squared. So this is 9a squared minus, now 2 goes into 98, that's 49. Now to factorize fully, we have to go into the brackets and apply the difference of 2 squares. Now, the difference of 2 squared, when we have a squared minus b squared is equal to a plus b times a minus b. So we have to apply the difference of 2 squared to the bracket, to the terms inside the bracket. So in this case, we will have 2 times. Now, if you factorize further, it's going to be 3a minus 7 times 3a plus 7. That's the final answer to question 18a. We have the final answer says 2 times 3a minus 7 times 3a plus 7. Now question B. Expand and simplify x plus 4 times 2x minus 1 times x minus 2. So we can start by multiplying the first 2 brackets. So let's expand the first 2 brackets. So we have x times 2x gives us 2x squared. So this is 2x squared. X times negative 1 is negative x. 4 times 2x is going to give us plus 8x. Then 4 times negative 2 will be negative 8. Okay. It's going to be negative 4 because 4 times negative 1. It's 4 times negative 1. That's negative 4 times negative 1 is negative 4. So it has to be negative 4. Now, after expanding the first 2 brackets, now we can now introduce the last bracket. Can expand by introducing the last bracket, x minus 2. Now, we can now start by multiplying 2x squared by x, or x by 2x squared. And that gives us 2x to the power of 3. Now, we have 2x, 2x times x is going to give us 2x squared. Then we have 2x squared times negative 2, and that gives us negative 4x squared. So negative 4x squared. Okay. Then we have x times negative x. It's going to give us, we have x times x, 2x to the power of 3. X times x is going to be x squared. Let's see, I'm going to erase this first. So x will multiply every single term inside the bracket before multiplying -2. So I've got x times 2x squared, 2x to the power of 3. X times x will be minus x squared. X times positive 8 will be plus 8x squared. X times -4 will be minus 4x. Then -2 times 2x squared will be -4x squared. -2 times x will be positive 2x. -2 times 8x be negative 16x. And then we have -2 times -4 to give positive 8. So now we're going to group the like terms. Now to group the like terms here, first we have to say 2x to the power of 3. Now x squared, there's x squared and also 8x squared. And also we have minus 4x squared. So negative x squared plus 8x squared is going to give us positive 7x squared. Positive 7x squared minus 4x squared will be plus 3x squared. So this is plus 3x squared. 3x squared. And then for the x, we've got plus 2x minus 16x is going to give us, here we've got -4x plus 2x is going to give us -2x. -2x minus 16x is going to give us -18x, then plus 8. So this is going to be the final answer to this. We have 2x to the power of 3 plus 3x squared minus 18x plus 8. Now, question 19. 2 plus 5 cos x equal to 0. For 0 degrees less than or equal to x, and x less than or equal to 360. So we can actually rewrite this as 5 cos x equal to -2. So the positive 2 moves to the right-hand side, becomes negative. We have 5 cos x equal to -2, or you can subtract 2 from both sides. Subtract 2 from both sides in this form. Then we will now say 5 cos x equal to -2. So dividing both sides, to make cos x subject, I have to divide both sides by 5. Divide by 5. You can cancel out the 5. Then cos x is equal to -2/5. Then x will be the cos inverse of -2/5. Now, the cos inverse of -2/5 is going to give us 113.58 degrees. So x will be equal to 113.58 degrees is the value of x. Now we're expected to find a second value of x. And the second value of x shows that cosine is negative. And from our trigonometry, we have ASTC, which says that cosine is negative in the fourth quadrant. So because cosine is negative in the fourth quadrant, we can now find the second value by saying x 360 minus 113.58. And that gives us the second value of x as 246.42 degrees. So the answers for x, the first answer here, we're going to write 113.58 degrees. And the second value of x is 246.42 degrees. So the next question here, we have question 20. A piece of metal has a volume of 1,240 centimeter cube. Correct to the nearest 20 centimeter cube. The mass of the piece of metal is 7,800 grams. Correct to the nearest 100 grams. Calculate the lower bound of the density of the metal. Density is equal to mass over volume. So the density, the formula for calculating density is mass over volume. But this time around, you're expected to calculate the lower bound of the density. So let's say density, I'm going to write LB to represent the lower bound for density. D is equal to, now, mass, the lower bound of the mass over the volume, the upper bound of the volume. So this is the formula for calculating the lower bound of density. So now, let's find the lower bound for the mass. The mass of the metal is given by 7,800 grams with a degree of accuracy of 100 grams. So the degree of accuracy, we have to find half of the degree of accuracy by dividing this by 100 by 2 to give 50. So it has to be plus or minus 50. But in the case of the mass, we want the lower bound of the mass. So we have to subtract 50 from the mass, which means the lower bound of the mass, M, will be 7,800 minus 50. And that gives us 7,750. 2,750 as the lower bound for the mass. So it's equal to this. Now, that's for the mass. Now, the upper bound of the volume, V, upper bound. Now, a piece of metal has a volume. The volume is 1,240 centimeter cube with a degree of accuracy of 20 centimeter cube. So we can find half of the degree of accuracy, which is 20 over 2, and that's 10. So plus or minus 10. If you're finding the upper bound, you have to add 10. If you're finding lower bound, you have to subtract 10. So the upper bound of the volume will be 1,240 plus 10 because it's the upper bound, and that gives us 1,250 centimeter cube. So the density here, well, we're going to take the values of the lower bound of the mass, which is 7,750 over the upper bound of the volume, which is 1,250. This is 1,250. Now, if you divide this using a calculator, you're going to get 6.2 gram per centimeter cube. So the final answer here is 6.2 gram per centimeter cube. Question 21. OAB is a triangle. C is the midpoint of OA. Okay. Now, the vector OC is equal to M. Vector CB equal to N. E lies on AB, and AE, ratio AE to EB is ratio 4 to 5. Find in terms of M and N the position vector of E. Give your answer in its simplest form. Okay. Now, from the instructions given here, C is the midpoint of OA. So the midpoint of OA is this. So if C is the midpoint of OA, then we have OC is M, CA will also be M because C is the midpoint. So here we have vector CA will be equal to M as well. Then the question says, find in terms of M and N the position vector of E. Now, this is simply what we're looking for. The position vector of E, starting from O. We have to find the position vector of E here. The position vector starts from O to E. So this is exactly what we're looking for. Now, to find the position vector here, we have to write down some of this vector OA. Vector OA is already going to be 2M. I've got OA will be M plus M, that's 2M. And vector OB will be equal to vector OC plus vector CB. So OC, it's already M, and CB, vector CB is N. So M plus N. Now, vector OB will be equal to M plus N. Now, let's also look for vector AB. Vector AB will be equal to vector OA plus vector OB. So vector AB, OA will be negative because of the change in direction. AO, the change in this direction shows that it's going to be negative 2M. So this negative 2M plus OB, vector OB, which is M plus N, plus M plus N. Now, negative 2M plus M is just going to be negative M plus N. Or can be written as N minus M. Still the same. Okay. Now, from the instructions given for the ratio of AE to EB, okay, we have ratio 4 to 5, and E lies on AB. So now let's find what AE is. We're going to find AE, vector AE, as equal to, we're told that AE, not vector AE, but AE is 4 over 5, I mean, 4 ratio 4 to 5, which means 4 over 9 of AB. the diagram, you will find vector AE as, no, AE is 4 out of 9 of the whole of the length AB. So let's go back. 4 over 5, sorry, 4 over 9. It's 4 over 9, not 4 over 5. 4 over 9 of AB. And 4 over 9 of AB means 4 over 9 times 4 over 9 times AB, which is n minus m. So let's see. So just multiply 4 over 9 by n minus m. And then for EB ratio EB, which is going to be 5 over 9 of AB. 5 over 9 of AB, 5 over 9 times n minus m. Okay, now let's go back to the final question that says, find in terms of m and n the position vector of E. From the diagram, we're expected to find the position vector of E, which means vector OE. So we're expected to find vector OE. So vector OE is going to be equal to now vector OE will be equal to vector OA plus vector AE. Now, of course, vector OA, for what we have here, is 2m. So replace this, substitute this as 2m plus vector AE is 4 over 9 times n minus m. So we have 4 over 9 times n minus m. So we have to simplify this. Of course, this is over 1. So you can make denominator the same. Multiply by 9. Multiply by 9. So 9 times 2m is 18m over 9 plus 4 over 9 times n minus m. Okay, so here we have 18m plus, expand the bracket, 4 times n is 4n. Then 4 times negative m will be negative 4m over 9. So everything is going to be over 9. Over 9. So 18m minus 4m is going to give us 14m plus 4n over 9 as the final answer to the question. So the position vector of E is 14m plus 4n over 9. Now to the next question, number 22. The line y equal to 4x plus 12 intersects the curve y equal to 2x squared minus x minus 3 at point P and Q. Find the coordinates of P. You must show all working and give your answer correct to 2 decimal places. Now we have a linear graph, a linear equation, and also a linear function and a quadratic function. So we have to equate this to make them equal in order to find the point of intersection gives us the solution for point P and Q, the coordinates of P and Q, the X and Y coordinates of P and Q. So now let's make the two equations equal by writing 2x squared minus x minus 3 equal to 4x plus 12. So we have to now rearrange by grouping the like terms. To make this equal to 0, we can start moving 4x to the left-hand side, move everything to the left-hand side to make the equation equal to 0. So we have 2x squared minus x minus 4x minus 3 minus 12 equal to 0. We move every single thing from the right-hand side to the left-hand side, it becomes 0, it becomes negative. So 2x squared, here we've got 2x squared. Now negative x minus 4x is negative 5x minus 15 equal to 0. So we have a quadratic equation here, and we can apply the quadratic formula. But first, let's label the coefficient of each of x squared and x as a, b, and c. Now applying the quadratic formula that says x equal to negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac over over 2a. So we can actually now substituting into the quadratic formula. The coefficient of a is 2, b is negative 5. So a is equal to 2, b equal to negative 5, and c equal to negative 15. So let's replace this, substitute into the equation. Negative b means negative bracket, negative 5, plus or minus square root of b squared, which is negative 5 squared, negative 5 squared, minus 4 times a is 2. Then c is negative 15. Now over dividing everything over 2a. 2a means 2 times 2. So we can go further to simplify this using your calculator. You're going to end up with negative times negative is positive. So we have 5 plus or minus 12.04. So after finding the square root of this, you should get 12.04. Then divide by 4. We're dividing by 4. So let's divide by 4. Now this gives us, so it's either, the value of x can either be 5 plus 12.04 over 4, or the value of x can be 5 minus 12.04 over 4. Now, after adding this, add and divide by 4, you're going to get 4.26. The value of x here is going to be 4.26. And if you do that to the second value, 5 minus 12.04 divided by 4, we're going to have negative 1.76. So after finding the values of x, we can now go back to the original equation to substitute to find the value of y, corresponding values of y. Now, to find the corresponding values of y from the equation, y equal to 4x plus 12, knowing the values of x, so all you have to do is substitute to find the corresponding values of y. So when x equal to 4.26, so you have to substitute into the equation to find the value of y, which is 4 times 4.26 plus 12. And then y will be equal to 29.04. So this is the corresponding value of y when x is 4.26. Now, that's it for the first value of y. Now, for the second value of y, now from y equal to 4x plus 12, when x is giving us negative 1.76, so all you need to do is substitute the value of x as negative 1.76. So this becomes 4 times negative 1.76 plus 12. Okay, so after using your calculator, the value of y will be equal to 4.96. So we've got two values of y and also two values of x. So we can rewrite the answers in the given space here as P and Q. For P, we've got when x is 4.26, y is 29.04. And for Q, when x is negative 1.76, the value of y is 4.96. So that's it for question 22. Now to the last question, which is question number 23. The diagram shows the major segment of a circle, center O, with a radius of 2.5 meters. The length of the tunnel is 800 meters, and it has the same cross-section throughout its length. Calculate the volume of the tunnel. Now, the volume of this shape is going to be given by the formula volume, V, is going to be equal to the area of cross-section cross-section, so the area of the cross-section times the length of the tunnel. Now the area of the cross-section times the length of the tunnel. And to find the area of the cross-section, we have to split this in this form. First, let's have this in this form here to have a triangle and a major sector here. So which means if we're able to find the area of the major sector and also find the area of the triangle, we can add up the area of the triangle to the area of the major sector to give the area of the cross-section. Now, based on what the instruction is given here, the radius is 2.5 meters. Now, if the radius is 2.5 meters, which means that if the radius is 2.5 meters, then we're going to have the remaining part of this length as 0.5. The remaining part of the length is 0.5. 0.5. If the whole of this is 2.5 meters, which is the radius is 2.5, and the whole of this length here is 3 meters, So the radius 2.5, the remaining part of the length is 0.5 meters. Now, to calculate the area of the major sector, we should be able to find this angle for the major sector. But to find the angle, before you find the angle, we need to also find the angle of this triangle. We need to be able to find this angle, given that this is a right angle triangle. So we can actually apply SOHCAHTOA because the angles are equal. If you find one angle, you multiply by 2 to give the whole of this angle. So already a right angle triangle, and I have to apply SOHCAHTOA in this case. So to find angle theta, label this as angle theta first. It's going to be cos theta equal to 0.5 over 2.5. Okay, 0.5 over 2.5. So theta will be the cos inverse of theta, will be the cos inverse theta is the cos inverse of 0.5 over 2.5. So if theta is the cos inverse of 0.5 over 2.5, then theta will be equal to 78.46 degrees. Now, 78.46 degrees is just the angle of the right angle triangle here. This angle is what we have as 78.46. But if we were to find the whole of this angle, the whole of the triangle, the whole of the angle in the triangle, we'll have to multiply 78.46 by 2. So by multiplying 78.46 by 2, we'll say 78.46 multiplied by 2, and that gives us 156.92 degree, which means the whole of this angle in the triangle here, the whole of this angle is 156.92. Now, with this, knowing this angle, we should be able to find the angle of the major sector. Okay, we should be able to find the angle of the major sector. When I mean the major sector, I mean the angle here of the major sector. We should be able to find this. Now, to find the angle of the major sector, we have to now subtract 156 degrees from 360. So the angle, the major sector will be 360 degrees minus 156.92. And that gives us 203.08 degrees. Okay. Now, 203.08 degrees. Now we know the angle of the major sector, which is this angle. Angle of the major sector is 203.08 degrees. Then we can now find the area of the major sector. Okay, the area of the major sector is given by the formula area A as what? Theta over 360 times pi r squared. Okay, the theta will be the angle of the major sector, and that will be equal to 203.08 over 360 times pi 3.1 times 3.1 142 times the radius is 2.5 centimeter, 2.5 meters square. So, 2.5 meters, so you have to multiply 2.5 square. Now, using your calculator to multiply this, you're going to get 11.076. The unit is going to be meter square, in meter square, as the area of the major sector. Now, having found the area of the major sector, we also, like I said earlier, the area of the cross section is a sum of the area of the major sector and the area of the triangle. So for the area of the triangle, we will apply the formula half AB sine theta, where the radius is 2.5 meters, and the angle is known. This angle is known as 156.92. So with this information given, we can now calculate the area of the triangle. So area of the triangle, half AB sine theta, which is half times 2.5 times 2.5 times sine 156.92. Now use your calculator to multiply and divide by 2. You will get the value 1.225 meters square. Now, we have already the area of the triangle, and we also have the area of the sector. So the total area will be the sum of the area of the sector and the area of the triangle. Total area will be equal to 11.076 plus 1.225, and that gives us 12.301 meters square. Now, we've succeeded in finding the area of the sector, the area of the cross section. Now, back to the original formula, the volume says the area of the cross section times the length of the tunnel. Now, the area of the cross section is 12.301 meters square. So I'm going to multiply the area of the cross section by the length of the tunnel. Now, 12.301, here I've got 12, the area of cross section as 12.301 times the length of the tunnel, giving us 800 meters. So multiplied by 800 meters. So if you multiply this using your calculator, you're going to get 9,840.8 meter cube. So we have a final answer of 9,840.8 meter cube. I'm going to write the final answer here. 9,840.8 meter cube. So with this, we've come to the end of the video. If you find the video of value, you can show appreciation by liking, commenting, and also don't forget to share and subscribe to my channel. Thank you. Let's move on to the next question.